Welcome to Jewels of the Trade. I'm here today with Kevin Fu and Will Ralston of Jade Resources Ltd, where Kevin is chairman and Will is the COO. Their company owns a large jade mine in Kazakhstan. It is a huge honor to have you both on the channel. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jordan. Good to be here. Pleasure.
So great to have you guys. So before we dive in, who all is in the live chat? Say hi and be sure to drop in any questions you have for Kevin and Will about Jadeite Jade from Kazakhstan. For those rewatching this after the fact, you can refer to subtopics via the timestamps in the video description. And don't forget to join the Jot Discord link below so that you can extend the conversation with the community and engage with jade collectors, carvers, sellers, and more to talk about this very exciting and new topic in the world of Jadeite Jade. So I know the audience is wondering, how does one even get into jade mining? Kevin, let's start with you. How did you get started in the jade business?
Well, first of all, I got started in the mining business, which I've been in for more than 50 years now. And zeroing into Kazakhstan, I first went there in 1990, and from that period through to the next 20 years developed, I think, 5 or 6 copper and gold mines. And then in 2009, came across this deposit through a mutual friend of Will's and mine, and we've been looking at it and developing it since. The Itmarundi Jade deposit, as you see on the screen there, it's quite something. And the more I've looked, the more enthusiastic I've got about it. And we're really excited with what we have there now.
And I mean, this is like your office, right? Like what we're looking at, this is somewhere that you actually go to work. Where are you normally based out of?
Well, I'm based out of the UK. I go to Kazakhstan a fair bit. Will spends more time there. And our office base is in Almaty, where he is right now. And the mine is a nine-hour drive, I suppose, by a rickety road by car.
Wow. Wow. That is so fascinating. So, Will, how did you get into the jade mining business? How'd you get your start?
So I actually, when I was 18 years old, which was a very long time ago, I went out to Tajikistan originally. So that's how I ended up in the Stans and ended up working on a gold mine and coal mines, and spent 13 years living in the mountains of Tajikistan, which was a good way to start. And that's how Kevin and I met each other a very long time ago. And then actually left the mining industry. And Kevin and I probably didn't talk for about 10 years. And about 3 years ago, Kevin called me up and told me what he was up to. And having thought I wouldn't go back into mining again, I just couldn't believe the opportunity. I just sort of was just totally blown away by the fact that, out in the middle of the Kazakh desert was literally the largest jade deposit in the world. And so, yeah, just too exciting. Couldn't say no. And so joined the company and now operating as the COO of the company.
Your enthusiasm is contagious, Will. I love it. So it sounds like this is all pretty recent, like it's coming together like right now. How new would you say this material is to the international jade market?
Very new. We're just really beginning to introduce it to the Chinese market, let alone the international market. But the international market is our ultimate target because of the ore body and the size of it, and how we perceive the markets generally.
So there must be a lot. So some viewers might not even realize that Kazakhstan has jade. Kazakhstan is a massive country, actually the 9th largest in the world, and it borders Russia. Will, you live there now part-time. What is it like being there? In fact, you are there right now, right?
I'm here right now. Probably the background on my video is not very exotic. It's like the balcony of my apartment. But yeah, look, Kazakhstan's great. I mean, I've spent, between Kazakhstan and Tajikistan half my life in Central Asia. So I'm probably biased saying, how much I like it. But Kazakhstan was actually it's a very developed country. I mean, particularly Almaty, where I am at the moment. It's kind of got everything you need. People are super friendly. You can get everything from a mining point of view, very different to Tajikistan. You know, in Tajikistan, you can never get spare parts. You couldn't get anything, like literally everything had to be imported. Whereas here, you know, you could, it's relatively easy to function, you know. So everything's here. And then the mine itself, well, that's way out on the Kazakh steppe, which is essentially the desert, although it is next to a massive lake. And, you know, although it's a very remote area, you know, there is a town about 100 kilometers from the mine. It's flat landscape, so you don't have to go up and down mountains like we did in Tajikistan. So yeah, it's great. I mean, it's just really fun, essentially. It gives you kind of just about the right balance of adventure, all the home comforts at the same time that you want.
So, Will and Kevin, we have a question from the audience. Someone wants to know how they can shop your products. I know we're going to get into this a little bit deeper later, but do you have just a quick answer for the audience who's wanting to do a little bit of Googling, some research? They want to kind of pull up a website and see what's out there. What is your short answer to the question? Do you have an online store so that we can see your products?
I think the short answer to that is one of the a brand that we work extremely closely with, together with Kevin's son and daughter-in-law, is called Thank Jade. And the website for if you just put in Thank Jade, it'll literally just come up. And there you can see that is like online store where you can buy the product and everything. All the jade in Thank Jade comes from the mine.
I'm really looking forward to seeing more Kazakhstan jade material on the American market. And we're going to talk more about your supply chain later on in this video. But first, let's discuss how much jade is being produced in Kazakhstan. You guys kind of alluded to the fact that it might be a lot, right?
Well, the ore body is quite large. We think it's the largest primary deposit in the world, and it could be the largest singular deposit of jadeite in the world. With your studies, Jordan, you'd know a lot about the Burmese deposits and probably quite a bit about the Guatemalan. Principally, the Burmese, for instance, are primarily alluvial, whereas ours is primary. It's the original rock, and it hasn't been broken down and weathered too much. And you have kind of monoliths sitting in the steppe of jadeite, and it's been there a long time. And in terms of commercial activity, we would be the fourth or even the fifth owner of this deposit, but previous owners have been looking for the much elusive imperial jade, which our deposit does have, but nature is a cruel master, and she makes sure that you can't just go in and take what you want. And all the jadeite on the surface you see is within that Fei Choi ternary diagram, every bit of it. And that's what I recognized through my training as a metallurgist. And I could see probably what others had cast off literally as not imperial, as hang on, this is all, it's all Fei Choi and good stuff.
So how would you characterize the appearance of Kazakhstan jade?
It's mixed, but people my son James spent a lot of time in Burma and Myanmar looking at mines there and the jade markets 4 or 5 years back in the 2015 through to COVID. And when you take our jadeite and polish it, do a window, for instance, polish it up, and for instance on the white, grey, green jadeite combinations, they're very similar to Burmese. And if you compare it to Russian, the rough rocks look quite very similar. I haven't got enough data to competently comment on Guatemalan versus Kazakhstan jade, but I know some of your previous guests are looking at that. But what counts, I think, is not what's in the mineralogy or how it looks in the rough. It's what products you can make from them, and how does that attract a buyer? How does that attract someone who loves that product? And we've been looking at that end of the business more than the genesis of the ore body and the mineralogy. I spent 8 years doing that myself, from 2008 through to 2016, because I had to convince myself that this was worth the investments we were putting in. And being an old cynic, I took a long time to convince myself this was worthwhile, but it sure was, and it's a wonderful deposit.
This is very exciting. Can you talk about what colors of jade are coming out of the mine?
Sure. I'll flip to Will in a minute, but we get the whole range of colours. But in general terms, you've got white, which is the actual jadeite or colourless, grey, which is probably, I would guess, a combination of jadeite and omphacite, and then we have the flashes of Kosmochlor through the white or the grey or the white and grey and so on, and thousands, if not millions, of combinations of that. We have samples of lavender coloured jade, brown, even dark coloured, and an icy quartz kind of jade too. So it's quite a mix, but I would say 60% of the ore body is white grey with almost like lightning strikes of green through it.
Wow, that's so exciting. So can you talk about the qualities that you're seeing come out of the mine, like the range of qualities? Is it you mentioned that the imperial is few and far between, if there's any there, but are you seeing mid-grade or mostly low grade, carving grade? Like, what's coming out?
Will can.
Yeah, so so when unlike I guess a normal jade deposit, where the rocks or the boulders can be quite small, or pebbles from rivers, the average piece of jade that we ship is probably about 4,000 kilos. So you get in one piece of rock, you get a whole range of stuff, and we haven't probably we've shipped quite a lot now, but we haven't cut enough to probably be able to classify it down in terms of percentages of what's this and that. But generally speaking, is in a deposit, it's about 70 or 80% sort of utility, and then the rest is about 20% of that commercial grade, which is more translucent. I think our key advantage that we have is, obviously we've got a lot of jade, but that is because of the size of the pieces, it really allows us to make things out of the jade that you could have never made before. So, literally tables, furnitures, tiles, stuff like that. That's just kind of would be way too expensive, really, to make out of Burmese jade. On the whole, I know there is furniture that exists from Burmese jade, but it's very, very expensive indeed. So that's really our superpower, is just this large format pieces that we can make. And what really happens is when you make a large format piece, you will literally have in one piece, you will have a utility, a commercial, and even specks of imperial here and there, just all together, which kind of makes it fun because every piece is totally unique, and you've kind of got, oh look, there's a great bit and there's that, but it's essentially all in one piece. And then obviously there are areas where you get the finer stuff that can be used for jewelry, but I would say that jewelry is not. Generally, it's not our main focus. Our main focus is on large pieces, and large carvings, large ornaments. That's where we got a lot of it. So we that's what we can do with it. I
cannot wait for Jade Home Decor to start hitting the U.S. Like, this is very exciting to me. I want to decorate my whole house
exactly
in jade.
What we're working on. This is it. I mean, this is if you walk around the jade markets in China, and we've done a lot of that, you see beautiful jade, and we all love jade, but it's bangle, 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 bead, 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 carving. There's very little outside of that. And with us,
because that's all they can make.
That's all they can make. But also, I think there's a certain lack of imagination involved as well. But imagine having, I don't know, the doorknobs on your kitchen cupboards in jade, or something more recently looking at is people making urns, for example, out of jade, and you name it. So jade, I would say, to sum it all up, it really is jade homeware. That's our USP, and that's where we hope to be. Well, I won't say market leaders. I don't really think there's any competitors, but I think we're going to be the market pioneers of that. And that's super exciting. And we've been that, although initially when we sort of came into China, that concept, which Kevin's been talking about ever since I met Kevin, and long before met Kevin, started working with Kevin on this, and long before I started working with him. In China, that was initially, it was very hard to find people who would think outside the box. But we've got wonderful partners in China now, and they are influential in the industry, and they absolutely are thinking the same way as us. And they're just sort of, it's this massive opportunity, and everybody who kind of in the team and these influential people can see that, Jade homeware, Jade for the home is coming. And then it'll be one of those things like everybody wished they'd done it, but nobody else can do it because they don't have a mountain of jade.
So this kind of leads into one of our audience questions. Leo Lyon wants to know, will China pounce on Kazakhstan as a new source of jade? And they're wondering if China is already aware of the volume of material coming out of Kazakhstan. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The Chinese, when I first started going and talking about Kazakhstan jade to them back in, 2008, 2009, they wouldn't even talk to me. They say it's not real jade. But I was talking to the wrong people, of course. But now the people we're talking to that Will mentioned, they're very senior and experienced people in the business. They've been to the mine. They had a very good look at what we've got, and they confirmed what we've been saying. It's probably the biggest deposit in the world. It's fei choy, and no doubt about that. And the challenge will be to create products that the Chinese market can love and buy, and also move from the traditional Chinese markets into new products that we're talking about. That's the challenge, not the size of the ore body or the cutting and polishing. But yes, the Chinese are becoming aware. I don't think there's going to be a takeover, and they're pretty conservative. They want to see things, how they turn out. They want to see how it sells and so on. And we hope to develop some really strong relationships with Chinese offtake agreements and partners in manufacturing. One of those partners produces my favorite product, which is the Best Time company that produces the super thin cut jadeite panels of up to a square meter. And this is fabulous technology. It took Tony Kim and his team many millions of dollars to develop this, and we helped a little bit along the way too. But that shows the 2 millimeter thin cut jadeite with a surrounding LED light, and it just brings the mineral to life. I've spent a lot of my time looking down a microscope at cross sections and polished sections and so on. And this is just like a big version of that. And you can look and see, imperial jade in these illuminated panels. It's just amazing, and you could look at them all day. It's just quite a product. And imagine a tabletop, 3 meters long by a meter wide, made out of this material, which is quite hard, as you know, quite tough. It's not exactly totally indestructible, but it's more robust than granite or quartz, even as a building and a large kitchen or usable product. It's really tough material, and it withstands heat, all sorts of acids, alkalis, and so on. and it's waterproof.
I need a jade table. Like, I think after seeing this jade table like 3 or 4 times, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have one of these in my house. So let's get into the nitty-gritty technical details about Kazakhstan jade. So on this channel, I have actually featured some small samples of Russian Jadeite jade. But as the Jot audience already knows, this material isn't highly prevalent on the US market. And when it does appear, it's often selling as Burmese. So that has made it very, very difficult to learn about. Would you say that the material coming out of your mine is similar to Russian? And then can you just talk about some of the similarities between your material and Russian and the similarities between your material and the Burmese sources?
Sure. First of all, Russian, I have not visited the 2 or 3 Russian deposits, but one of our geologists has. And as I said earlier, the uncut jadeite blocks and the boulders that they mine are not dissimilar to ours. In fact, I think the Russian material seems to be a bit greener and less kind of mixed up and intricate geology than ours. But it's still a beautiful product, and we're happy to stand shoulder to shoulder with that material as a valuable product.
Kevin, how close geographically is your mine to the Russian jadeite mines?
Oh, thousands of kilometers.
Okay, so they are definitely very
Yeah.
far, very separate. This is not like the same vein that's just crossing countries' borders. This is a distinctly different deposit.
Probably on one of the same tectonic plates where all these jadeite deposits were formed. It must have been, but they're not in the neighbourhood, no. As for comparisons with Burmese, we've done a lot of that, because one of my big questions that I asked was, is it jadeite or just a nice green stone? What's the mineralogical mix? And we had students and other people do PhD theses and that kind of thing on our jadeite, because with my background, I wanted to know what was it really there. And long ago, we found out that it was a mix of the 3 magic minerals, jadeite, omphacite, and Kosmochlor. Who would have thought? And frankly, that worried me when I first learnt that. And this was before Mr. Lee's paper that kind of made the big difference in our understanding, and where we developed the Fei Choi terminology. I was worried. I thought, oh my God, our jadeite is not, the real stuff. But then I learnt more and more and read more and more about Burmese mineralogy, and there's an awful lot of similarities, and they're different genesis slightly, but our white and green jadeite is very difficult to pick the difference between us and Burmese, let's say from a bangle or a pendant or some piece of jewelry. Very difficult to pick the difference. And from the hundreds of samples that we examined in the Burmese markets, where they cut a window, put a price on it, sometimes when we do the same with our jadeite, as Will's beginning to organise down in China, where we will be cutting windows in our rather 4-6 ton blocks to pretty them up a little, it's very difficult once they're polished up to pick the difference. And that's a good thing from our point of view. I believe Burmese jadeite, the ore bodies, which I think are depleting, and that's no secret. They do have more imperial. They probably got 1% imperial, if you could define that. We might have 0.5% or less, but we're not looking for imperial. We're looking to sell every rock on that mine will be sold. That's what we're trying to do. So geologically, I can get into some of the technical details, but I won't at the moment. But geologically, mineralogically, they're very similar. And a gentleman called Doug Kerwin visited the mine last year with us, and he's a highly respected jade bug and internationally known geologist. He said, look, and he'd been to both zones, and he went to Guatemala too. He said, there's very little difference between your utility jade and Burmese utility jade, and probably you're getting into the same area commercially. So I know that's a qualitative answer, but that's our knowledge so far, and this is becoming with people beginning to look at jade, and particularly Western people, it's a new world, and only some of the old experts like Dick Hughes and others have been at this business for a long time. There's very few people, Western people, who have looked at this. So it's great that we're getting coverage like this.
Oh, well, it's great for me. It's great for the audience. I know everybody's really excited to learn about this material. And I know a lot of people want to talk about this paper. So there's a famous paper called Kosmochlor bearing jadeite rocks from Kenterlau and Murundi that explains the uniqueness of Kazakhstan jade's Kosmochlor content. So Dr. Aaron Palke of GIA was on the channel a few weeks ago, and he said that he actually hardly ever sees Kosmochlor jade at GIA. Now, keep in mind, the specimens that are going to GIA to be tested tend to be very fine quality gem grade material, right? So it was still a little shocking when he said that he doesn't really come across Kosmochlor, and I thought that was really telling. But it sounds like you guys are coming across Kosmochlor in your jadeite. So can you kind of talk a little bit about the Kosmochlor content in your jade, and like how prevalent is it? Can you see it in the jade? Like, can you tell?
If it's green, it's probably Kosmochlor or chrome associated jadeite or chrome associated omphacite, but it's that stuff there in that sample is probably largely Kosmochlor. And if you look at the mineral assemblages and the actual elemental analysis, you've got jadeite, sodium, aluminium, silicate. Kosmochlor's the same, except the aluminium's replaced with chromium, and omphacite is the same, except it's a bit more complicated. It's got sodium and manganese and iron mixed in there a bit. So they're really all part of the same family. Now, as for Kosmochlor is very rare in jade globally. There's quite a bit, I'm told, but I haven't seen too much information. I haven't read much information about it in Burma, but its occurrence in Murundi is due to the geological setting of the chromium-rich jadeite within the metasomatic intrusions. So I won't fool myself to think that I can explain this in a geological sense, but it's just the unique geological formation conditions that have sweated out a little more of the Kosmochlor than normal. We have a lot of variability, and we get omphacite, chrome jade, chrome omphacite, Kosmochlor, albite, phlogopite, and all these other mixtures of minerals, just like in Burma. So our Kosmochlor is there to see, and in terms of how much Kosmochlor is in the ore body, I don't know. One could only guess. And when people buy a jade ring or a bangle or so on, I don't think they come in and say how much Kosmochlor or omphacite is in it.
Of course not, no.
They just buy it because
we hope nice. They don't, right? The goal, and I've said this a lot on the channel, the goal is for customers to forget the word omphacite, forget the word Kosmochlor, because they're all jade, right? It's all fei choi, jadeite, omphacite, and Kosmochlor. Chemically, they're so similar. And there is such complex intermixing that even advanced gemological testing usually cannot distinguish which is the majority in a finished stone. But of course, when talking to a miner, like, we have to ask, because jade lovers are nerdy and curious, and we get into all the nitty gritty. I think this is a good segue into that same paper that we mentioned. It discusses Kazakhstan jade being comprised of jadeite, omphacite, phlogopite, like you mentioned, analcime, albite, and Kosmochlor. So how much of the composition of a specimen, once you have finished it, right, like once it's a sellable good, is actually jadeite omphacite or Kosmochlor? Or I guess what I'm really asking is, when the specimen has been turned into a finished good, how much of it is actually jade? Are you guys going for a certain percent or more of jade?
It's all fei choi, and we are pretty certain of that because of the primary nature of it. But you can see shoots and veins that have been refilled in the ore body with albite or some of those other gang minerals, as we call them in the mining industry. But when you get down to actually producing products, and we've learned this the hard way with some of the Chinese traders and some of the manufacturers, they zero in on naturally the green stuff and put aside everything else. But pretty much all of our final products are well within that that triple diagram of Kosmochlor, omphacite, and jadeite. They're all inside the triangle.
Excellent. Oh, that's fantastic news. I just love hearing that. When Dr. Palki was actually on the channel a few weeks ago, he announced a new technology at GIA for distinguishing Burmese from Guatemalan Jadeite jade. They're actually planning to get samples of Kazakhstan jade so that they can be able to test it and be able to identify it as well. But in the meantime, can Kazakh jade be identified visually? Like when you look at it, can you kind of tell if you have trained your eye for it?
It's almost like a trick question, but I'll try and go for it. I know you're not trying to trick me, but
No.
it is a complex one. My answer is I think I can. I've been living with this thing for nearly 20 years. I think some of the sharper-eyed Chinese traders and experts and professors that we've met can probably do the same thing. The layman, definitely not. But we are working on, because of my metallurgical and mineral processing background, I'm working on ways to distinguish our jadeite from other jadeite, not because I want to get another PhD thesis, but because it'll be a great marketing tool, because
Right.
our jadeite is, conflict free, to say the least. As you see, environmentally, it's just a bunch of rocks on the surface. All we use when we cut it is water to lubricate the saws. There's no processing, there's no chemicals, there's no explosives. So we have a good story there, and if we can show that our jadeite is A, the real thing, and B, you can make anything from it, that's going to create a whole new international market.
So exciting. So exciting.
There's other papers that we've seen by a Chinese group that picked up, maybe Mr. Harlow found this, but the genesis of this ore body as it came up from the 80 or 100 kilometers below the surface, the first wave, if you like, the first ore body was pretty much clean, pure jadeite, white to grey. Then there was other fluids that came up, and like omphacite, Kosmochlor mixed in with that. And then there was, I think, perhaps even a third genesis where some of the interstices of the grains and the granules within the main ore body were squeezed with even finer amounts of omphacite, jadeite, and Kosmochlor. And these interstices and the intersecting coarse fine mineral mix is one of the distinguishing characteristics of this ore body. Our jadeite crystals are pretty coarse. They're they can be seen with an eye lens. But inside those crystals where they join together, you've got kind of like a matrix, and those crystals cooled quicker by the look of it, and therefore they're more translucent and transparent. And so you can get a strange looking thin cut rock where a lot of it is not that translucent, and then you've got a wavy set zigzags through which are quite translucent, like that on the picture. That's the best time product. So that's another characteristic of our deposit.
Very exciting. Sounds like a more unique petrogenesis from what we're seeing come out of Burma. And yeah, I do suspect that if we, the jade market in the US, if we could see more of it, I do suspect we would probably be able to notice that there is a unique quality to this jade. It has a unique story, like you said, and it's coming from this new and exciting place, but also it does seem, I don't know, it seems different. There's something about it just seems a little bit different. So Will, let's hear from you. Let's talk about like your day-to-day life when you're in Kazakhstan. like this picture that we're looking at. Yeah.
I've just been thinking like the last 3 questions. I'm like, oh, thank God Kevin's on this video.
No, we're going to hear from Will. No, I want to know, like, is your office
breakfast?
Like,
it's a much easier one.
Well, we want to hear raw emotional experiences from you.
It totally depends where I am in Kazakhstan. So if I'm in, we have our office in Almaty. So that's a pretty typical kind of office. There's a lot of planning stuff that's going on at the moment with regard to getting, doing our next phase of mining. But more exciting, because that's not very exciting to hear about, would be like what goes on in the mine. So really at the mine, it's at the moment we're doing a lot of planning. So actually in this photograph you can see right in front, you've got the 2 main monoliths, or in that one, oh yeah, there we go. On the left, you got monolith 1 and then monolith 2. So at the monolith 2, which is on the right, we've a part of that's been mined already, and we have we're planning to be mining monolith 1 this year, which is actually the bigger of the 2, to be starting to bring that down as well. So a day on the mine can be anything from spending time out in the field amongst the several thousand jade rocks that we already have, selecting rocks for export. That actually takes a surprisingly long period of time. You can be out there from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night just to picking the right rocks for to just send out 3 trucks or something, because there'll be certain sizes that people want, or certain shades. And then when we're actually mining, it's literally all hands on deck. So it's really just getting everybody going and just mining, right? I mean, mining's like that. That's what mining's like, right? It's just how much can you get done in a day? What bit of a kit's going to break down? What spare parts have you got to find? And you just do it. And it's during the summer, it's extraordinarily hot out there. That's all I can say.
Oh, I bet. Is that the mining season, summer, or can you mine year round?
In theory, you can mine year round. We haven't done that, but it's not. You don't get very deep snow or anything like that. But what you just do is it could go to -40, and it's the wind chill that's really could be quite deadly out there. So you wouldn't want to get caught in that. So the idea is try and get as much as you can done in the fair weather, so that you don't have to do much in the other times of the year.
Kevin used the term, I believe it was conflict-free, when referring to the mining process. Can you give us a little bit more detail about the actual process of mining and excavation?
Yeah, so it's a mix of things. Nearer to the surface, where you've got more oxidation, more freeze thaw, more natural fracturing, you can kind of pick apart the top parts of the outcrops with a breaker, right? I mean, with a hydraulic breaker attached to an excavator. So that's relatively simple form of mining. It's obviously very, very cheap indeed. Then once you get down out of that area, jade being one of, well, the toughest mineral there is, I think, on planet Earth, then it gets a bit more complicated. So then it either becomes a combination of breaking, which we're working on at the moment, is to work on using hydraulic splitters. So essentially drilling sets of holes, in a line, and putting the splitters into that, and breaking the jade away. And then ultimately, once you get into the finer areas, it'll be using a diamond wire saw, which is the kind of thing would be used for mining blocks of granite or blocks of marble or something like that. The only catch here is you're mining blocks of jade, which are a lot harder to mine than blocks of marble, but doable. You just need, it's a question of using the right rope and having experienced people on the saw. So yeah, it's anything from literally just picking away the easy stuff with it's got natural cracks in the ore body, to splitting, and then for the finer stuff to sawing it out where you really want to take the best.
This must take a lot of people. This must be a huge team.
Actually, not really, because if you look at Burmese mining, I mean, which is obviously got lots of controversy attached to it. They use thousands of people because it's very manual. You got people tapping the stones with the metal poles to find out which one's jade, which one's not, and then the whole rush, and it's very dangerous. This whole, a whole shift could be run with less than 15 people.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's the magic of heavy machinery, basically.
Right, technology.
Yeah,
it must be much safer too for the workers.
Yeah. So it's really it's small teams of well-paid workers with modern equipment, moving large rocks. You could really equate it to a quarry. It's not all that different from a quarry. How that would be mined.
Right.
That's great. There's not much difference there, but it's nice doing things with a small team, because obviously managing the health and safety side of things is a lot easier, and you've just got a smaller team of higher paid professional workers, just essentially just attacking an engineering challenge, just like any other quarry. So yeah, it's nice. It's kind of, I would describe it as relatively peaceful mining, no explosives.
I want to get a hard hat and I want to go. I want to drive the excavator.
You should definitely come out.
That would be the best.
Yeah, you should come out. You should come out.
I should. I really should. Those who are watching, let me know in the comments if I should go to Kazakhstan, because I kind of think I should. What an experience. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the company. Are you guys vertically integrated?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately we mine it, so that's the first level of the vertical integration, and we get it manufactured into the finished product. We don't. The manufacturing is done through subcontracting, so we don't have our own benches and with people actually making the product. But essentially, it's subcontracting to create a finished product that can then go either into wholesale, or it can go into retail. At the moment, our target though is to essentially go from mine to wholesale finished product. That's really our target, is to move up that value chain as much as possible, because as with all stones, right, the huge amount of value is actually made when you turn a rough bit of rock into something beautiful, right, that you can sell. Right. And we definitely want to be part of that value chain, and that's the way we've set ourselves up.
It sounds like you have a lot more control over the final product than most miners do. Typically, like a mine just produces the rough and then it goes off to someone else, and who knows what happens to it. But you guys seem to have a lot of say in like where it goes, who gets to process it, how they're selling it, where they're selling it. Can we dive in and start talking about where Kazakhstan jade is being sold, where it's going to be sold, what's it being sold as, like the types of products? Like, tell us everything. Give us all your secrets.
Well, not all of them, but I'll just throw something in, Jordan, on that point you raised. Because we have an almighty big ore body and lots of jade, and we want to make products like you see there, I think, and we want to sell to the US, Europe, Middle East, all over the world, people are going to want to know what the provenance of this jadeite product is, where it came from, and we're really ready for that. We're already well advanced on blockchain recognition, identifying products we make from the rocks you see there, each rock. And when we get our act together a little better, that Will's, one of his tasks is to do that. That Buddha, which is a real one we made, all these are our products. They will have their own identification and QR code and be seen on the blockchain to be unique. You can track its history, its provenance from that block in Kazakhstan to your tabletop. And that to us is going to be important.
How? I have questions. Can you tell us?
Will can explain that. He's well versed in the plan.
Blockchain. Yeah. So what during the years that I wasn't a miner, I got actually very involved in blockchain, which is a funny industry. It's full of a lot of BS mixed with a lot of really cool technology. But actually ended up becoming an educator in London, which I still do. I still fly back to London once a month, and I educate a room full of people about blockchain. And it's interesting seeing over the years how that's the type of people that come to these lectures is now, it's now members of parliament and heads of big funds and stuff like that. So it's a very important technology indeed. Now the way we're using it, we have you could say an offshoot of this whole entity, which is called Jade City, which has quite a big presence on social media. And Jade City is kind of where we've combined obviously the whole serious side of Jade, but with a bit of fun and this kind of mythical city, Jade City, and a bit of gamification on the blockchain side of things, which is part of the marketing and stuff like that. But fundamentally, what Jade City is it's a different, you could say, business model for the funding of Jade. It's really the Jade value chain, like the manufacturing side of things, but also it has a provenance, you could say, technology using blockchain, provenance technology built into it, which allows you to really track, each piece of jade and so
it's a QR code?
Essentially register it on the blockchain, because ultimately each piece of jade, doesn't matter which piece it is, they are all unique, right? It's like a QR code, but it's just a QR code of nature.
Okay.
Yeah, you can think of it like that. But it's like a QR code that you can't fake. So, if I made a QR code, somebody else could copy it, right? And say, but actually, if I have a piece of jade and I have that, the pattern of a certain part of that item of jade registered on the blockchain, if I then go and want to sell, like let's say in the secondary market, that piece of jade from Jade City to somebody else, they can, you can say, well, this came from Jade City, so it's legit. And all they'll have to do is essentially just scan the piece of jade with an app on their phone, and it can just reference it back to a digital asset on the blockchain. It will say, yes, that pattern is the same pattern on that item, which came from Jade City, therefore it's legit. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. It's all quite new. I mean, we've been working on it for a couple of years. But it's very cool. It's harder to do, much harder to do with Imperial Jade. But as the majority of what we're dealing is large format stuff, and we have all kinds of, as you can see from that block right on the screen, right? Just take any face of that block, it's totally unique, right? And it wouldn't be worth the time or the effort to try and recreate it out of, I don't know, marble or something. So that's a totally unique block, and that's the wonderful thing about blockchain. Is that you can just basically record that information. You can create a complete library of what you've produced, and then for the secondary market, that library is basically just there, available to prove provenance and to prove the identity of a piece, and that it's essentially, you could say, conflict free, and that it's real, which is the thing that most people care about most of all, right? It's a legitimate jade.
This is some futuristic stuff. Since you mentioned
yeah,
the
no,
cube.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's called it's jadecity.io. So and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's the gamified side of our project.
I think that'll appeal to a lot of the Jot audience.
Yeah, it also, you know, I think the thing about industries is you've got the natural people who are, you know, interested in jade and this and that. But I think with any industry, you should always be seeking to bring like new age groups, new audiences, new people into something, right? You should always be looking to grow, to expand. And sometimes it's just it's just how you present something to somebody that turns something from being what they thought was boring and not interesting into something that's super fun and super interesting. And sometimes it's just a question of how you explain it and how you get them to look at it. So that's something that we've been doing. So yeah, we have
I can't imagine anyone else is doing that with jade. You guys must be the only ones.
No, nobody else is doing it. We are totally unique.
Wow.
I'd be cheeky and say nobody else wants to do
it. Sounds like a lot of work. So let's talk about that. Since we've been showing the cube, we talked about the cube a little bit. You guys actually sell jade in cubes, right? Like what we're seeing on the screen. This is actually an actual product. This is not like a render, right? This is something that you sell.
The one thing about blockchain is there's a lot of work to set up.
So who are you selling to? Are you selling rough, or are you only selling finished goods on the Chinese market?
Yeah, it's not an AI special. That's a real one. Yeah,
we're selling rough. We try and limit that. We have offtake agreements.
Both is the simple answer to that. So we are selling rough in the Chinese market because some people, you know, there's a group, for example, sort of antique famous pieces out of jade.
We're losing Will a little bit. I think there's a lag for Will.
Okay.
He's in Kazakhstan, you guys.
Long way away.
The internet's a little different.
Short answer, Jordan, is we do both.
Yeah,
but we really want to move into value chain.
In terms of products, there's obviously the traditional stuff is made. You know, we
What is the future of Kazakhstan jade? Like, what can we expect to see in the next few years?
I think we've lost Will.
I think we've lost Will again. Kevin, what do you think the future is?
Well, I've had one objective since I started, and I convinced myself that this was something worthwhile doing, is to bring Kazakhstan jade to the world. And it's a new world now. It's not like the old world where jade was bought in secretive shops physically. 85% of Chinese jade is now online sales. We will see this happen worldwide, I think. And thank Jade's market is just online. There's no physical markets there, and we're beginning to sell a lot of those beauty products and so on through that source. But I really want to get big format pieces because we've got big rocks made out of jade, jewelry quality jadeite. Imagine it. This is insane, you know. And have these pieces put in luxury architectural jade situations and the best, the most beautiful homes, offices, hotels, casinos. We want to make jade a bit of a go-to word in this very uncertain but rapidly changing world, because one thing jade, like gold, jade has retained its value and its aura for 10,000 years. And those of us who ignore that, will suffer, because jadeite, we want to bring that magic that the Chinese have for it and the understanding into the rest of the world, where everybody becomes very interested and a fan of jade. And we've got a big enough ore body and big enough rocks that we can pretty much, if you can make it out of stone, you can make it out of our jadeite. I think that's the message we have. And every product we make, at least of a certain size, will have its own provenance. You'll know where it came from, how it was made. And if you want to sell it, it'll be on the blockchain. And, the person buying it will know what he's buying, not some fake piece of art, where provenance is a big thing, but there's many art fakes. This stuff is impossible to fake. And the other good thing is you can't make man-made jade, unlike the diamond industry, which is suffering because of that, or maybe it's a good thing for the consumer. But
someone in our audience wants to know if you guys are going to be selling rough on the US market.
We haven't sold any rough on the US market. We have a couple of small offtake agreements with US buyers. So I guess we are and we aren't, but we're not actively yet selling rough into the US, because it costs a lot of money to get jade from Kazakhstan through China to the US. And if you have a $50 piece of raw jadeite, it's better economically to turn that into a much higher value product or products and sell that into the US. But we're looking at it, because a lot of people like the made in US approach, and that could be a market that is worthwhile exploring more.
I think it's important to mention too that this is still in the earliest chapters of Kazakhstan Jade's story, right? Like, this is all still so new. I think a lot of this product is going to be coming to the US, hopefully in the form of home decor, because that's really exciting. I would love to see carvers be able to get their hands on some of this rough so that they can start working with it, because carvers love unique materials and unique origins. But I hope everybody watching, if you're watching this right now today, there's not a lot of availability in the US, but maybe a year from now, or maybe a couple of years from now, we'll see a higher prevalence of this material. Yeah. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, and this is the beginning. This is our first public video, if I think we right there, Will. So you're the first.
That's an honor. Well, thank you. It really is an honor to have you guys on. I always enjoy talking to you guys and hearing about your experiences. I hope that we'll be able to see you guys in the US. I know it's a bit far, especially from Kazakhstan, but maybe you guys could come out for Tucson or something, because it would be really nice to learn more about this material, see more of it on the US market, and especially build more awareness of some of the more ethical mining practices that you guys are implementing in your conflict-free jade mining.
Thank you.
So if anybody else has questions, leave them in the comments. Be sure to join the Jot Discord. The link is in the video description. And I won't see you guys next week, because I'll be at the Denver Gem Shows. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.